times in the past. Lesson 63 is super easy. It's basically taking a concept we already learned, and they're doubling our workload per problem. So that's all we're doing. Just requiring us to do twice as much. So let's dive right into it. Lesson 63, addition of vectors. So we know how to go from polar form to rectangular form, correct? Good with that? Okay, so we're going to, actually we'll look at 63.1 because it is a word problem that you won't have to do it very often and then it'll go away, but it kind of explains the concept. Flying arrow left the village and traveled 20 miles on a heading of 20 degrees, okay? He left the village and headed 20 miles on a heading of 20 degrees, which would be out in this direction, correct? So he headed out that direction 20 miles, correct? Okay, you got a 20-degree angle right here. Okay, well then what does it say? Someone read the next part.
From this point he traveled 40 miles on a heading of 2.
Okay, so from this point he traveled 40 miles on a heading of 210 degrees. Again, think about starting from 0 over here. 210 is way over in here somewhere, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
Not over in here. It's based on this point. After he got to this point, he went 40 miles at 210 degrees. So now it's back way over in here. Does that make sense? This is where he ended up when it's all said and done. At 210 degrees. So what is our angle right here?
Both together?
No, just this one.
40. Is it 0? No. 100.
Think about where he started right here. From this point, he went 40 miles at 210 degrees, right? Starting over here at 210 degrees.
180?
What is this?
30.
Thank you. 30. Because 180 would be to right here and then another 30. Okay. So basically what we have to find is how he ended up. And the final answer is always written in rectangular form, which makes it easier. So this initial one here is 20 at an angle of what?
30.
20 degrees, right? Okay. Also, he went 40 at an angle of what?
210.
210. Okay, so we have to add those two together. I usually draw them up on two separate graphs. So you got a point, you got 20 degrees and a length of 20. You've got another one, 40 at an angle of 30, we said, right? Okay, we have to find the R and U, the R and U for both of them, and add them together. Does that make sense? So like, I'm going to throw some numbers out there just to keep us going. Let's just assume the R on this one, someone throw a number out.
2.34.
Say it again.
2.34. I
Try it again.
don't know.
Think about the length of this side right here. What is this length?
40.
40.
Maybe 35?
Thank you. 35 be positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. Negative 35. Does that make sense, everyone? He's doing an estimate because of turning it over there. Someone help me with the U here.
18.
I like it. Positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative 18. Y'all do understand how to find those accurately, right? Everybody's good with that? Does anybody have a question on that? You have a question on it? Okay. So let's take the next one here and do it with the calculators. So, Ms. Savannah, help me find R here based on what we know here. So the two parts that we use are what? Sine and cos, correct? To find the adjacent side and the opposite side. So what we're trying to find is the distance, rectangular coordinates, based on how far do you go this way, how far do you go that way. Okay, so the R is the adjacent side, right?
Yeah.
Based on the angle. So which one of these deals with the adjacent side? Cos, you got it. Cos, so I'm going to put a 20-degree angle in here, equals adjacent over, so it would be R over 20, right?
Yeah.
R over hypotenuse. So give me that number on your calculator. We do cross multiplication is what we say. So cos 20 times 20 should give you R.
20.
That's cos 20?
I got 18.79.
I got
Mhm.
18.
Keep on what you're doing there because I think you have just the first step. Cos 20
Times
equals what?
Oh, I did cos 20 times 20 in one thing.
Oh, it probably glitched out. You can, the other way you can do it is 20 cos 20. Is that right, Cody?
Mm-hmm.
Do that, okay.
18.79.
18.79, and that is for the R, correct? And is it positive or negative?
Positive.
It's positive, why?
Because it's on the positive side.
It's on the positive side. Okay, so positive, say it again, 18
18.79.
R. Someone else give me the U. 6.84? And that'd be a positive result, right? Okay, so all you're doing is you write them over top of each other and then add them together. This is negative 35, positive 18.79. What is my final answer for R?
16.21. Negative. Negative 11.16.
That is your final answer. Does that make sense?
I'm
Were you
confused.
leave
How
the
does
decimal
negative
on? I don't
35
know.
plus 18 get 16.21?
Also, how do you get
Just
negative
take
35
away.
or negative 18?
It's negative 35, positive 18.79.
Oh, what's
How do you know when
Yeah.
to use a decimal?
Say it
How
again.
do you know when to use the decimal?
Always use a decimal. Always round. In algebra, as a general rule, if your answer comes out with a decimal, round to 2 places and roll with it. That makes sense? Only time you don't use 2 places is if it's an estimate or something. Then you just round it up and go.
Oh, that's why we just use it for the first.
How do you know when it's negative or positive?
Think about the starting point. Okay? This is not dealing with x and y. This is dealing with right and left and up and down. Okay? You always have a starting point. Okay? When you're dealing with 40 at an angle of 110 or 210, you have a starting point, right? Okay? Helps me to track out here 40. Okay, I go out here 40. You always go to that positive R. Does that make sense? To start. 210 degrees around the circle, 210, you're going to be down in here, right? String's still the same length, so this line right here is what?
40.
40. In order to find your rectangular coordinates, you always work off of this line right here. So the angle in here is what? 30. Okay? In order to find rectangle, I forgot what your question was. What was your question?
How do you find negatives or what's? I don't
Negative or
know.
positive, okay. So this is your original point right here. R deals with left and right. That makes sense? It's always on the left and right line. U deals with up and down. Okay, based on this original point, is the R to the right or to the left? Left. On a number line, when you're starting from 0 and you're over in this area, what do you have?
Negative.
Negative, okay? So the R in this case, whatever your answer comes up with for the R on this one will be negative.
And then would the U be 2?
The U would be 2 because it's down, correct?
Yeah.
Well, if you think of it as an x and y scale,
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
and then if the angle would be, yeah, I get it.
Does this angle make sense?
Yeah.
210, you work your way all the way around, you carry it back up to this line. Everybody good? Any questions on that part? Adding vectors. So, number 6 on your lesson is a word problem. Rewrite that in actual polar coordinates. Does that make sense? Don't try to solve the word problem. Just rewrite it in polar coordinates, whatever it is, 30 at an angle of 210, 40 at an angle of 30. And add those together. Your final answer doesn't need to be in a word problem. It can just be rectangular coordinates. Does that make sense? Everybody good with that? Braden, good with that? Sounds good. All right. That is the end of that lesson. See, the way we can make this YouTube thing work is if we did this on every lesson. Then next year I wouldn't have to come and I could just be rolling in the dough. Y'all be sitting back here watching it and I'd be breaking it in. Just kidding. All right, lesson 64, complex fractions, complex numbers. 64.1, write the following as a simple fraction. Okay, so all they've done now is they've taken and added a portion out on the left side. You see that? So I'm going to write this on the board. We've got a positive, someone read it off to me, 1 over what?
1
over
over
B
B
plus
plus
X.
X.
One person. Go here on the end.
1 over B plus X.
Okay, so eliminate that. Do you know how to solve this?
Yes.
Yeah.
You do? You good with that? Okay. Technically, A is written as what? A over 1. So I'm going to rewrite that. A over 1. Okay? So already starting to make more sense. Remember, the A was on the line with this larger fraction, correct? It wasn't down below or up above. It was right on the line, okay? So you rewrite that as A over 1 to make it align itself with this larger fraction. Now, help me solve this portion over here. Keep it on the bottom. Tell me what this would look like simplified.
1 plus xb over b.
Got it. So I'm going to come down here. 1 plus xb over b all under 1, correct? Okay? As well as a over 1 positive. Okay? Now, to move this to the top, what do we do? Flip it. We flip it and we multiply, correct? In this case, we don't have anything to multiply times, right? So, what is my simplified fraction on this side?
B over 1 plus X.
Is everybody still good with that? That makes sense? She took it, flipped it up, multiplied it times 1, which leaves it just like it was. Okay? At this point now, the A positive 1, A over 1, positive B over 1 positive XB, all lines up now, right? Alright? Now what's my next step? Common denominator. What is my denominator? Alright, so what will my final answer look like?
A plus xb plus b.
Wait, why is there
Well,
another
it's
a? There's not another a, is there?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
the
there
one.
is.
You're taking this,
Oh, yeah.
Wait, but there's already a 1 down there.
but this is like 1 positive XB times 1. If this number over here was a 2, the reason this always works is because A is always written by itself, so you add a 1 below it. It will come to a point though where they'll start putting A over something. You'll have to go ahead and deal with that, so it'll be A over B. So instead of, you'll do something like this. A over B positive C over X over 1 positive B, or something like that, for example, but put a T down here to make it more confusing. And then you'll have to solve that, which is the same thing, just leave this off to the side, flip that, you simplify it, and then you add the two together. Let's do a practice on these. Yeah, here we go, 64.2, they've already done it to you, so, drop down and solve practice B on your paper. Practice B on your paper. Again, take care of the right-hand side before you mess with the S over Z. Make sense? So what is your common denominator?
Z in parentheses 5Z plus 2S.
Got it, okay? So your numerator then is multiplied times whatever is missing in the denominator. That making sense? Grant? Kind of? The
Kind of.
portion, where are you stuck at?
I mean, I do the first step, and then
Right here,
yeah.
okay?
Once I take to the top, I can't figure out.
Okay, so just forget about this over here for a second. Did you get it right there? Got it right there?
Yeah.
So what you have is 3 divided by all of this, right?
Mhm.
Anytime you have like 2 over 3 divided by 4 over 3, you can do what? Multiply. You can switch one or the
Yeah,
other,
switch
right?
one or the other.
Yeah, you can switch the second one and multiply. So that's what you're doing here. So technically you have 3 over 1 divided by this, right?
Yeah. So
Okay, so if I'm dividing, I can just take and flip it and multiply.
so Z.
Times Z over 5Z positive S. Make sense? Any other questions down to there?
I think the main thing I was struggling with is my 5's and my S's look the exact same
Oh,
thing, so
horrible.
I kept switching them up.
And the 2.
That was a bad combination, but I don't think I see any other ones like that. All right, we're ready to go to the next spot. Complex numbers. Complex numbers. These are super easy. This stuff that you're used to already. So when you have a negative square root, like the square root of -3, what is that actually technically written as?
Square root of 3i.
That is the first step. Anytime you're solving a problem with complex numbers, get rid of those negatives because they're just going to cause you trouble. However, if you have -3 times times that, then what's your answer?
-3.
-3. What is, think about it. What did we say? If 2 square roots are multiplied times each other, the answer is, it's just the number, correct? Not positive or negative or any of that. It's just the exact number that's in there. In this case, it'd be -3. You don't have to dive into all of that. Basically, the reason this works out is because what is the square root of -3?
Nothing. Or square root of -3.
It's 3i, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, times, again, 3i, correct? What is square root of 3 times square root of 3?
3.
3? How many i's do I have to carry over?
2.
How many i's?
Negative.
Just
So it's a
so
negative?
it's just
There's 2 of them. There's 2 of them,
so
right?
it's a -3.
Which makes -3, right?
Yeah.
Which is this right here, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so follow that pattern. In the cases where you see that, do that right away. Don't go into all the trouble of rewriting it as that right there and trying to solve that down the road. Just go ahead and eliminate your square roots, save your number. Good with that? All right, so drop down to 64.3. You've got a square root of -2. Anytime they don't match, take the steps. So what is the square root of -2? 2i. Square root of -3 is 3i. What do I have here? The square root of,
6i squared.
which is the
Negative.
negative.
-6. Wait, why is it the
No.
square root? It's not to the square root, is it?
What is the square root of 6?
Square root of 6.
Square root of 6. You can't do any better than that. So, but they don't like to see 2 i's, so you just move that out here and make it negative. Does that make sense? Go up to 64.4, simplify. Mr. Cody, help me out with the first term.
-4.
-4.
I, sorry.
Miss Carla, help me out with the second one.
Positive 2.
Wrong.
Negative
Negative 2. You can cancel 4 i's out. Mr. Robbie, help me out with the third one there. This one's going to be a little tricky. Take the steps on this one. Tell me, give me a step 1 here. 2 square root of.
I'm confused.
3i.
Let Robbie take care of this one. 2 square root of what would be a simplified, or
Okay.
just give me a very basic step 1.
I usually use my calculator for these. So.
Okay, so we're going to work back out of that, okay? So what is the square root of negative 9?
3.
No,
No.
give me even a more basic step than that. Square root of negative 9 is the square root of,
Square root of negative 9.
well, what is the square root of negative 3?
Like 1 something?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, stay with me on a step-by-step basis. What did we do? Like, what is the square root of negative x?
It'd be xi.
Got it,
Square root of
okay.
xi.
So what is the square root of negative 3?
Negative 3i.
3i. So what is the square root of negative 9?
9i.
There you go. That was the answer I was looking for. Okay. Now take me one step further. What is the square root of 9i?
3i.
3i. You got it. And we have to multiply that times what?
2.
2. So what is the answer for this portion?
2 to the square root of 3i.
Nope.
Or
You had
6i.
Yeah, there you go. You got it. 6i. Okay. All right. So positive 6i. Miss Kyra, help me out with the last portion there. I'll take the last whole section there. Say it again. You got it. Anytime you have 2 square roots that are the same, you can just throw the square roots away. All right. So then from here it's just simple math, right? You're good with that? So let's move on just a little bit. Go to the next one, 64.5. This is very basic multiplication again. Mr. Grant, roll through this one with me. Rattle some numbers off based on what you see there.
On 64.5,
Yes. So what would be the first thing you would multiply?
4 times 3.
You got it. So just go ahead and rattle off some numbers to me.
12 plus 6i for the first row.
Okay, plus 6i, I see that. Okay.
And then negative 8i, negative 4i squared.
Got it. Perfect. So what would be the negative 4i squared?
Just positive 4.
Got it. Okay. And so you're done there already. You got it to where we can just add it together and simplify. That make sense? Perfect. These are very simple. Most of them are just visual. Do your simplification. Bring that back. Let's do this on paper, not with our calculators. Just for the sake of just pushing our mind a little farther. So dive into practice C yet, and then we'll call it quits. Practice C. Solve it on your paper there, and let's see what we come up with. Correct. Yep. Take as many steps as you need to solve these things. Take little pieces of it to carry you through. So this one actually has quite a bit going on. This one, when you get all done, what they don't want is just 4.37 positive 5i. They want to keep this kind of like broken out. Does that make sense? So when you get done, this is rare that this is going to happen. But don't panic on trying to add stuff together. Just leave it in the simplified form because that is the best you can do. And I'll check this to make sure we do that the way they want us to. They throw the first two in parentheses, which does absolutely nothing. So
I have a negative 3 to the square root of 2.
that is wrong. Back up to right here. Did you get this step right here?
I mean, kind of. I just wrote the square root of 3i and the square root of 5i. Yeah.
Okay. With a negative 3 in front of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you go down, you should end up with negative 3 square root of 15i squared.
Why is it negative square root of 15?
If you just take this take this step right here and simplify it.
I get the square root of 15i, but why is it a negative?
It's negative 3 square root of 15i squared. What does 2 i's do then?
That's what it is. Okay. It
That
makes it a negative.
Does that make sense? Okay. That's what actually makes it a positive in this case. Yeah, you got it. Perfect. Any questions on that? Alright. I think we're missing about one lesson on scoring, aren't we?
Yeah, 60.
Yeah. Let's dive in there and score that real quick.
I do not have my lessons with me. I brought the wrong book.
Okay.
You want me to run back and get that, or just let it
Do you
go
have
and
it
score?
in class?
Yeah.
You do? Run, get it, and we'll wait on it. I thought maybe you left it at home.
I don't have my lesson 60 period.
Okay. Did you draw it away?
I know Troy has it somewhere.
Okay. Did you finish it?
Yeah.
You did? Just follow up with him on that one. Get that one scored, then whenever you get a chance, it's fine.
I absolutely despise
62?
Yeah.
Isn't that the one we just did today? No?
It was 63. I only took my 61 paper out of the thing. so-
Gotcha. Okay, as long as, yeah, we'll get the lessons that we need to score. You got 60 done, right? Yeah, 61 and 62 we're reviewing today. Alright, lesson 60. Lesson 60, what's the problem set there, Mr. Levy?
1 through 16.
Through 16, 25 through 30, okay? Number 1 is 28. Number 2 is 160. Number 3 is 16. Number 4 is 800 newtons per meter squared. Number 5 is, number of T is 40. Number of P is 90. Number 6, negative 2.83 R, positive 2.83 U. Number 7 is 2 square root of 5 at an angle of 116.57 degrees.
What was the decimal?
116.57. Number 8 is a pair of 10 and 20. Number 9 is 2 answers, 1 and negative 3 over 4. Number 10 is 1 and negative 1 over 3. Number 11, Na equals 0.0375 C, positive 3.9.
I rounded off to 0.04.
Okay, that's
I
good.
did that too.
I have 0.04C 1 plus 0.
Good?
Oh, it's
I just have my fraction.
What do you have for a fraction?
No, over 24
It's,
C.
oh, you did.
Good.
No, it's
I have
Put that in the decimal next time, to where you can compare pretty close. But yeah, that's good.
I have.
Aren't we still on the first page?
That's extremely accurate. Very good.
Not me.
Number 12, x equals 10, y equals 2. Number 13. 13 is AD, negative CDY, negative MY, over CD, positive M. Number 14 is KM, negative XYZ, negative DMZ, over Z.
I have everything.
I just,
All the sets mixed.
yeah, that's what I
All the sets are exactly all.
As long as you have every single sign backwards. Does that make sense?
Oh, I have it too.
It must be every one of them. If it's not quite all of them, you need to mark it wrong, check it. Number 15 is negative 3, positive 4. Starting over, negative 3, positive 4i. 16, 7, negative 15i. And it drops down to what? 25. 25 is 3 over 32.
I have 32 over 3.
I have 32 over 3.
32 over 3, I'm sorry.
I have 16.
20, you have 16?
Yeah.
16 is not quite right. Number 26, x is 50, k is 40, s is 50. 27 is 21 over 8 and 11 over 4. It's a pair. 28 is 0, 5, and 10. 29, y equals 2 over 5x, positive 18. 30 is 6x to the 5, I'm sorry, 6x to the negative 5, negative 3x to the negative 11, p to the negative 2, y to the negative 2.
There's no random Y2 right there, huh? I just added an extra one, that should not be wrong.
Why you say? I had to do it.